why do people say Trump is such a good speaker? He's not. He has a particular way of speaking that appeals to you if you enjoy bad speakers. If you're an idiot, Trump probably sounds like a good speaker to you. So the oh, I shouldn't say that so loudly. Sorry, I'm sorry. I forgot if there were people here. That's really awkward. He's been shouting shit like this for years now. It's been amplified. Oh, so the problem is that there are two very different Trumps. You have teleprompter Trump, which is usually just the guy like reading stuff off the prompter, and then you've got like Trump that's actually speaking. It's very easy to tell the difference between the two because the Trump that's just speaking has a particular way of speaking, and the teleprompter Trump holds his hand up a lot and is quite obviously reading sentences. But like his statements about what was it, like Hezbollah, when he was standing next to that with that leader when he's talking. The problem is that like you can't link a single clip of Trump talking about anything where you feel like he understands what he's talking about. Have you ever noticed that? Like if anybody in chat has a clip, I would love to see it. But every time Trump talks about anything, he sounds like an infant, right? When he talks about tax reform, when he talks about healthcare, when he talks about immigration, when he talks about dealing with North Korea, all of his answers are things that you would expect from people maybe in high school, like high school level answers, like we're going to make healthcare real good. We're going to give everybody real good healthcare. Or like North Korea, we're going to beat them up. We're going to bomb North Korea and make them stop, right? Or immigration, we're going to build a wall and get rid of all the bad hombres. Like every single thing that even in the leaked conversations, even the script where he was speaking to the Mexican and the Australian leaders, like just the way that he talks, it just seems like very, very, very. It's very, very. I don't know. It's really hard for me to reconcile his financial success with his intelligence. Oh, and the lies, the constant lie. This is one of the worst things. The two worst things, and this goes beyond policy here. The two worst aspects about Trump right now is his lying and his attacking of the media. Those are the two, like, those should scare you, not like in any sort of partisan way, but as an American. So Trump, for some reason, just can't not lie ever. So, For instance, like lying about when you lie about things that you can easily verify, it's just a very strange world to live in. For instance, when he said he had like landslide electoral college wins bigger than any of the past Republican presidents, like that's an easily verifiable lie. Why would you tell it? Why would you even say that? Like, do you think nobody's going to fact check you? And he's done this time and time and time again, like multiple times. Why does he lie about the Boy Scouts calling him to congratulate him on his atrocious speech? Why does he lie about the Pope calling him? Why would you tell these lies that other people can like very easily verify? That's a very, very, very strange thing to me. There's that, and then obviously the combating the media, like calling other people fake news when you're literally making up facts like on the fly. When you're tweeting things like 3 million illegal immigrants voted in the last election. Remember when he was going to put together a council on that? To investigate all the voter fraud. I think I saw a poll. I think it's like 56% of Republicans still think that Trump won the popular vote. So it works, right? If you just spout fake information, people will believe it, or at least I guess Republicans will. If over half the Republican Party still think that he won the popular vote, like, I don't know, that's pretty crazy. You can reconcile his success in youth if he's actually going senile. Yeah, maybe. Yeah, I'm not sure. But I guess, I don't know. I mean, like, there's videos of him, like, wandering around and whatnot, but I don't know. I figure you can get lost in areas. I'm not sure. It's not like he tried to lie. He just parrots what he hears from people he likes. That's another thing that I've heard as well, that behind the doors, a lot of people will say, like, Trump is just telling you what the last person told him. I've heard that as well, that, like, if Bannon was whispering something stupid in his ear. But, like, the stuff that came out, I think the stuff that came out like in the Comey testimony was like, that was really, really, really disgusting. Really, really disgusting stuff. Like, he wasn't really that successful at any time. No, the Trump brand is very successful. Anybody that tells you differently is being stupid. Trump built the Trump brand and built that business out to something that it hadn't been before. He probably had a massive head start because of his upbringing, because of his father and inheriting his father's business and everything. But he did build the Trump brand up to what it is today. What came out of the testimony? Basically just that Trump was trying to bully Comey into dropping the investigation on him and Flynn. just the casual Trump trying to influence an FBI investigation. You know, nothing too strange. If you believe that Trump is backed by the Russians financially, I really don't. So, like, Mike Spam, honestly, like, I'm about 99% sure that Trump himself personally did not collude with Russians in any way. Not him. I think that it was the people around him. The reason why I think that is because I think if Trump had colluded, I think that he would have leaked it by now. I think that everybody would know, because I don't think Trump could possibly keep it a secret. I think he would fuck up somehow and everybody would know about it. Like, This is how we know like aliens aren't real, right? We know that Area 51 doesn't have any extraterrestrial life because Trump probably would have tweeted it out by now. You know, like this. So I think you can like make some judgments on what is real and isn't real just based on knowing Trump's temperament. You know, the pathological lying is like really it's the pathological lying combined with the massive ego is like really worrisome. And his inability to get anything done, even on the stuff, even if you do like what he's trying to do, his way of doing it is so bad. Like the executive orders that he signs, and no one has any idea what's going on. Right when he tried to implement the travel ban, and the DHS is like has no idea like how to implement anything. Nobody from the top down was communicated with. When the military has no idea what the transgender ban means. When Trump starts tweeting and like the Pentagon is like on the edge of their seats, wondering if we're about to jump into World War III, waiting for the next tweet to come out. Like the lack of efficacy is astounding. To me, it's plausible that he's just a useful idiot surrounded by a group of competent people who know how to take advantage of his status. Yeah, that might be it. That might be it too, right? Like Kushner doesn't seem like an idiot, or I've never seen anything of Kushner that makes Kushner seem stupid. Trump Jr. seems kind of dumb, kind of slow. When he ran to Twitter to leak the rest of the emails, when the journalists were like, "We're publishing these emails," like, "Not if I publish them first. I put them all on Twitter right now. You guys aren't." That's pretty funny. I love that. My favorite types of lies are trickle truths, right? When the trickle truth on the meeting was really funny. First, it was like there was me and one other person. Then it grew to like 3 people. Then it grew to multiple people on Trump's campaign. Then it grew to like 9 people. you find out more and more and more and more. He actually hasn't put any of his policies through. Why isn't his base super mad? Well, in the United States, we're very, very loyal to party. I don't know if I'm sure maybe it works this way in most countries. In the United States, we are fiercely partisan. Fiercely partisan. Democrats will always defend Democrats. Republicans will always defend Republicans. Even Aleppo Johnson and libertarians and the one green lady or whatever, I don't even remember her name. Like, people are very, very, very allegiant to their party. Maybe we'll see something in midterms. I don't know how Republicans can live with not getting rid of the Affordable Care Act, though. That's probably one of the largest political failures that has existed in my lifetime. I don't even know what else you could put that on scope with. When you have 7 years to get rid of a piece of legislation, and then you get both halves of Congress and the presidency, and you still can't do it, and a guy with brain cancer stops you from axing the bill, or even getting rid of parts of it. Like that's pretty insane to me. I don't know how the Republicans can walk to the 2018 midterms with that. Like, that's impossibly, that's unbelievable. That's, like, unbelievable to me. I'm not sure. What do you think has to happen for Republicans to turn on Trump? If Mueller's investigation starts to close in, and it'll be when it's politically expedient to. Although at this point, I'm not actually sure what would happen. Like, there are public commentators, like Rush Limbaugh, right? I don't know, but honest to God, it feels like if Trump's campaign was working with Russia to accomplish what they did during the campaign season, I almost feel like people like Rush Limbaugh would be saying, well, Trump was a patriot and he was doing what he needed to keep our country out of the clutches of Hillary Clinton, right? And I could see Republicans going along with that type of narrative, right? Trump only colluded with Russians because he knew that if he didn't, the mainstream media would use the mainstream media machine to turn the country against Trump and get evil Hillary in there, and our whole country being like some crazy. I could almost see Republicans going down that ship, like going down with that ship. Maybe not even going down with it though, because their base would probably still support him. Do you think Democrats need a talk radio voice as large as Rush Limbaugh? I think different types of media are dominated by different political parties for whatever reason. Like talk radio is pretty much all conservative Republican. Michael Savage, Billy Cunningham, Sean Hannity, Rush Limbaugh, Glenn Beck, all of these people are conservative right-leaning people. News media on TV seems to be pretty left-leaning. All of it does. MSNBC, CNN, I guess Fox News is there, but like even like the entertainment channels and most people in Hollywood and all of that kind of culture, right? Comedy Central, all of these, like the Daily Show, the talk radio night hosts are all kind of like left-leaning, like liberal people. YouTube today seems to be dominated by right-leaning voices, the Sargon of Akkad, the Paul Joseph Watsons, the Lauren Southerns, for whatever reason. Local news is all conservative. I imagine it would depend on where you're from. Like if you live in a conservative community, it's probably going to be conservative. But if you live in like if I go to San Francisco and turn on the local news, am I going to see a bunch of like hard-line conservatives there? Or even in like Austin, do you think I'm going to see local news like hard-line conservatives? Like it's possible, I guess. I don't know. That seems unlikely, but Rush Limbaugh's already sort of addressed your previous arguments. The counter push would be the Democrats have also worked with foreign governments. Oh, that too. Trumpers love to engage in the whataboutism, right? When you say like, hey, like Trump tried to do this thing, it's really bad. Well, they go, well, what about when Democrats try to do it? And it's like, okay, well, I thought the whole reason why you liked Trump was because he wasn't like every other politician. But like the whataboutism is a big thing as well. So yeah, they could try to turn it that way too. I think it still fascinates me that so in the 60s you had something called the Red Scare, which is when everybody was kind of scared of like communism taking over the world and Red China and Soviet Union would come back and destroy all of us or whatever. It's very crazy to me that all of the Republicans that were like that grew up like very much believing in that, and they have, right, like 180 so hard on that with Trump. We're like, Russia's not that bad. Why you guys hate Russia so much? Like, guys, like, chill on the Russia thing. Like, it's not that big of a deal. Like, Putin's a friendly guy. Like, he's a chill dude. Like, but look at the speech that Putin gave. He just wants peace, guys. Like, just chill. Why does NATO have to be such a dick, guys? Like, calm down. Like, that's very entertaining to me. That's very interesting, I think. 4 years ago, Obama wasn't hard enough on Russia. Yeah, like that dude, that blows my mind. I don't know if my mom can hear me. Yesterday, I'm talking to my mom. My mom thinks that, like, Obama and Hillary are, like, best friends with Putin. Like, I'm willing to bet that if you were to poll the Republican base, I bet a lot of them would think that, right? That Obama and, like, Hillary are, like, super close to Russia, right? This is, like, 8 years of some of the most, like, anti-Russian administration that we've ever had, right? This crazy shit going on in the Middle East because of how horrible the Obama foreign policy was and being combative with Russian interests, right? All of this shit, and Republicans are like, yeah, I think that Russia actually is really close to Obama and Hillary. Like, what? Wait, in what reality? This doesn't make any sense. Oof, we live in a post-fact world, my dudes. We're gonna have to raise the debt ceiling next month. That'll be fun. I would pay $500 for like a pay-per-view 2 hours. I just want to hear Trump talk about anything. Listening to Trump talking about the debt ceiling for 2 hours would be very, very, very funny. I would love that. What do you think? What is the debt? First, describe it. What do you think the debt ceiling is, Trump? What would be some possible negative implications of us not raising the debt ceiling? What is the national debt? Where does the national debt come from? If America defaults on the national debt, who doesn't get paid back? What would the possible economic implications be for that? The idea that Obama had radically anti-Russian foreign policy is completely false. Well, I mean, NATO expanded hardcore under them, and the entire Syrian conflict occurred. In what world do you think that the Obama administration, and then the stuff that went on in Libya with Gaddafi and everything, how do you say that we didn't have a very anti-Russian outlook for the past 8 years? Of all the things he doesn't know about, shouldn't he know basic finance? Well, things dealing with the national debt and the Fed and everything, Trump might not understand, because it's not like normal credit, maybe? I'm not sure. Have you heard Scott Adams on Sam Harris's podcast? No, Scott Adams is a certified lunatic. The guy is actually crazy. Dilbert the comic is really funny, but whatever Scott Adams says, that guy is like actually like has dementia or something, I think. Like that dude is insane. Could you imagine Trump vetoes raising the debt ceiling? I don't think it'll get that bad because somebody will tell Trump not to and he won't do it. So whatever little demons he has whispering in his ear. Sam Harris was calling Trump a retard. All of Scott Adams' arguments against it was everything. Yeah, Scott Adams is like a really good, like a good case study. If you were like a psychologist and you wanted to see somebody like trying to reconcile every bit of cognitive dissonance possible in order to make their worldview work, Scott Adams is a good case study in that. Like Trump could like walk out onto a camera, like take a shit and like walk away, and Scott Adams would be like, okay, well, in the 1840s, there were actually these people that did this as a sign of whatever, and the people that needed to see this message, Trump was communicating with them in exactly the way possible. And now the media is actually covering this event so much while Trump is trying to get some important piece of legislation passed. So he's actually diverted the media and communicated. He's actually functioning on 52 different levels of communication here that the mainstream media is too ignorant to pick up. Like, it would be like he would be giving... He's insane, dude. Like, Trump could never do anything bad to him or for him. Like,
hi, Destiny. Love
Hi.
you. Do you think Trump will lose his leadership before midterms since all the big companies and corporations called it quits on Trumper? Bonus meme. Teehee.
I don't know. Oh, that was pretty funny. What like one day he's tweeting all of these execs that are leaving my all of these execs that are leaving our business council. They're so I can replace them. What I've got like CEOs ready to step up, and then like 3 more quit like the next day, and he's like, I'm just gonna disband this. Actually, I changed my mind, guys. Oh my god. Let's say that you've got a school situation, okay? And somebody says, what do we have to do to get these kids to learn better? okay? Let's say that somebody comes in and they go, okay, getting children to learn better in school, we need to take a multifaceted approach to this problem. One, we have to start with the family, okay? The family structure has to be conducive to the child being educated. A mom and a dad at home, or something that gives the child a steady foundation at home to study. There needs to be transportation set up. If that has to be publicly provided via school bus, the child has to be able to get to and from school. We need to make sure that appropriate food is being served at school to keep the kids healthy, thinking, blah, blah, blah. We need to make sure that the teachers are on board. They're up to date on whatever certifications or educational programs they need to teach, right? These are the things, blah, 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 right? And somebody hears that, like, okay, well, that's fine. Then let's say you get another teacher up there, and they're like, listen, if the kids want to learn, they're going to learn. We need to give teachers the ability to hit these kids so that we can get them in shape in class, right? People will always look at that guy that gives the simple answer. People will always look at that guy and go, he tells it like it is. That's what we need to do. We need to beat these kids up. We need to get them back in shape, right? He tells it like it is, right? Usually when people say he tells it like it is, usually the translation is, this guy is giving a simple answer to a complicated problem that I can understand, and I like that answer because it means I don't have to think about it very much, right? That's why somebody with the absurd idea of building a fucking wall can pretend to be solving a problem that's as complicated as illegal immigration into the United States, right? A multi-$100 billion a year industry is going to be stopped by a wall. Like, it doesn't really make much sense. It's a pretty juvenile answer. Like, well, what do we do for illegal immigration? Well, I don't know. If Mexico grows into a more stable country, if our border patrol works with them, if we increase our security in these ways, if we, redo maybe our visa process so that people don't overstay visas, because that's what, right? These answers are complicated and boring. Build a wall, though, and make it taller. Now that's a he tells it like it is, right? That's a good answer, Build a wall. That sounds like a great way to keep all of the immigrants out, right? Anytime, the thing that sucks is that, especially today, because the world is so interconnected, everybody is connected to everybody in the world right now. The solution to most of our problems are very, very, very complicated. Because it's 2017, 2018, 2016. I don't know what year it is. We're in the future, right? Like, all of the simple problems are easy to solve, right? If it's a simple problem, then we're not going to be sitting here talking about it forever. But our complicated problems, things like healthcare, things like immigration, our economy, right? Should we be moving to a service economy? Do we need to enact some sort of policy to get, manufacturing back in the United States? What kind of jobs should we be protecting? Should we be protecting any jobs? Education, right? These are very complicated issues. There is no easy answer to any of these. There's no easy solution to any of these. But if somebody steps up and they claim to have one, then everybody will think that guy's telling it like it is, Or a crime, right? Criminal justice, criminal reform. Why can't black people just stop killing each other? That's what we need. We need tough on crime, right? Okay. You supported Bernie, so don't throw stones in glass houses? I don't even know what that's supposed to mean, but okay. I supported Bernie because Bernie was on the right side of the most important issue dealing with the United States political system right now, and that's lobbying. I think that Bernie was a big anti-lobbyist person, and I think that is the single most important issue facing the United States political system right now. Given everything I know about every candidate, even though I don't like most of Bernie's economic positions, probably, I don't know what they would look like in actuality. I know that he pushed for that 15 an hour worldwide minimum wage, and I think he hated nuclear energy and was very protectionist, probably. I don't know what his policies would look like in reality. He seemed like a reasonable dude, but the fact that he wanted to get money out of politics was like, that's like a single issue for me. Like, I would almost take anything for that, Why does the right think the extreme on their side is equal to the extreme on the left? If you only get the problem is we've got a big country. We've got 330 million people in the United States, so you can pretty much spin whatever narrative you want, right? People think that Black Lives Matters is literally setting fires to and rioting like all over the United States, even though this has happened like a handful of times, like in some cities. So people will look at like, oh, the Ku Klux Klan, that's like the white version of Black Lives Matters. Like, and I saw people on Twitter. I got really mad like a week ago because people on Twitter were saying this all the time. Like, okay, whatever. So we might have Nazis or KKK sometimes marching for us. You guys have people like Black Lives Matter. Like, what? Really? You think those are comparable? Like, really? Yeah, Destiny. And Trumples have equally asinine platitudes to explain why they support Trump. So again, be careful about judging Trumples too hard when Bernie sold his supporters on easy solutions disconnected from reality. No, equivocating those two platforms is totally disingenuous. I wouldn't expect any less from you at this point, though, excuse me. But Bernie was a lot more nuanced. Bernie was far more nuanced in his answers than anything Trump ever was in the history of his entire existence. Bernie's decision to not support the TARP reform or whatever, but eventually backing the automakers and and fuck, dude, I would have to go back and dig through his debates. But Bernie gave pretty decent answers to most things. I felt like when Bernie was speaking about things, I felt like Bernie was a little bit more nuanced. Although, to be fair, the Democrat debates got a little bit, Hillary was too, got a little bit more into nuance than the Republican ones did, because the Republicans were too busy talking about the size of their dicks and whatever other weird stuff was going on in the Republican debates. But to try to equivocate either of the either three, O'Malley was the third one, right? To equivocate any of the three Democratic candidates to Trump's positions is actually ridiculous. That's really, really, really ridiculous. If you want to go ahead and link me any video from 2017 onwards, 2016 onwards, where you felt like Trump was speaking about nuance off a teleprompter of any issue, excuse me, please throw that link in chat right now. A single video, just a single video, 2 minutes or longer, of Trump speaking with any amount of nuance about any complicated issue, where he's not just saying like, it's a hard problem, that's a doozy, without him saying something that makes him sound like an idiot. I invite you to link that video. Bernie is an even greater opponent to free international trade than Trump, so you judge harsh Trump supporters for their anti-foreign bias in trade when the fact that you supported a candidate that did the same to an even greater degree. Well, I mean, Trump pulled us out of the TPP. That was probably going to fail anyway. I don't know, dude. It's pretty. Trump is trying. What did Trump do? He was going to put a retroactive tariff on Canadian lumber because somebody told him that their lumber practices weren't fair. He was talking about a 20% tariff on all imports from Mexico. I mean, it's kind of hard to beat that. Bernie supported a $15 minimum wage, opposes free international trade, opposes things like nuclear energy, and you just gave him a complete pass on those things. I didn't give him a complete pass. That's all you're hearing, though, because you're so insanely biased that you can't listen to when I'm being critical of people on the left. I specifically said earlier that he was for some I even made fun of it. I said a $15 an hour minimum global wage or something. I even made fun of it when I said it, because I think a $15 an hour minimum wage is stupid. I did criticize it, but you didn't hear it because your ass is so fucking imploded with Republican dick that you like cannot possibly hear somebody saying something that's critical of the left while being on the left and think it has like any validity or whatever. I'm not actually sure. And I actually even specifically mentioned that he was against nuclear energy as well, which is also something that I think was really stupid. I think I said both of these things not even 5 minutes ago. I don't know how you could sit in chat and pretend like I didn't. That's amazing to me. I'm sorry, classical liberal, not Republican. Trump literally had to get called by the Mexican and Canadian heads of state to convince him not to pull out of NAFTA. He had an executive order written up to start negotiations to pull out. Oh, yeah, I remember that. Trump is way more anti-trade than Bernie. X-Kills-Me is a fucking retard. Yeah, did Bernie ever talk about leaving NAFTA? Yeah, X-Kills-Me's big thing is that he tries to act like I'm massively partisan, that I give like a free pass to Democrats on everything, and I only attack Republicans. I don't think I do. I'm pretty critical of people on the left. The problem that I have is when people try to act like the problems on the left are the same as the problems on the right. It's just not right now, because the big problems on the right exist in policy and lawmakers and elected officials, whereas the big problems on the left exist in like college kids on some campuses that do some protests. Like they're not equivalent at all. A $15 an hour federal minimum wage is far worse than even Trump's wall. Like I don't know. Like I never said it wasn't. I don't know who you're arguing against. No. Okay, I'm not sure. Who is he? Does anybody know who he's talking to? In chat, I'm trying to find out. Is there another Destiny in here? I don't think so. Does anybody know who he's talking to? A $15 an hour federal minimum wage is far worse idea than even Trump's wall. You can't really compare a $15 an hour minimum wage to a wall, okay? These are not comparable ideas because these aren't ideas that address the same issues, and these ideas don't have the same implications. A $15 an hour minimum wage doesn't severely damage our relationships with another country that's right next to us. So, like, that's a totally different... If we put it at $15 an hour minimum wage, it doesn't hurt our relationship with Canada or Mexico in any, like immediately tangible sense, right? Whereas putting up a wall sends a strong message to the country right to the side. That's a much different thing. These ideas aren't even comparable. These are totally different things. I guess if you want to argue just economically, maybe. Destiny, you absolutely can compare the two. You are completely wrong. I mean, you can, I guess, if you want to compare like economic costs, but these are very different issues. One is addressing the federal minimum wage, and the other is addressing immigration policy. That's a really difficult thing to compare. Like, what do you think is a worse idea? Single-payer healthcare or building a wall to block us off from Mexico? Like, I don't know. In what way? I mean, I don't know. Like, that's like, I mean, I don't know. Like, what do you think is a worse idea? Should we get troops on the ground in Syria, or should we put a tariff on products coming from Mexico? Like, I don't know. Damn. Like, I don't know. That's a really... How do you even compare those? Well, economically speaking, I don't know what costs more, I guess. Like, oh yeah, Mexico's paying for our wall, right? Every time Trump goes to grovel to Congress to try to get funding for the wall. Oh my God. One thing I didn't understand about the election was everyone kept on saying we don't want war and then proceeded to vote for Trump. Is it even possible to be president without being involved in a war? So the problem is that somehow some people on the right were selling this idea that Hillary wanted to go to war with Russia because of the red line in the sand, right? Now, this is like, just think about this for a moment. So somehow people on the right simultaneously believe that the Hillary Obama administration was in bed with Russia, but also believe that if Hillary was elected, we would immediately start World War III and go to war with Russia. I don't know how you have both of these views in your head at the same time, but that's what people thought. People thought that although to be fair, Hillary talked about a no-fly zone in Syria, whatever the fuck that meant. But ironically enough, Trump is the one that ended up bombing a Syrian airport because of a sarin gas attack. So who even knows anymore, dude? Who even knows, my dudes? You can pretend to not know, but the reality is that a $15 an hour federal minimum wage would be so massively disruptive to the national economy, so you can pretend like Trumples are the dumbest people in the universe for supporting a southern wall, when in reality there are even more Bernie bros who support a far worse economic policy, and you can completely reverse any in-kind harsh criticism. It's hypocritical. Okay, so firstly, you don't know if every single Bernie bro that supported Bernie supported the $15 an hour minimum wage. You don't know that. For instance, I supported Bernie, and I didn't support a $15 an hour minimum wage. Secondly, a lot of people that supported for Bernie might live in areas where $15 an hour minimum wage makes sense, or not necessarily makes sense, but is more palatable than it would be in other areas. For instance, if you live in a rural community in Kansas, $15 an hour minimum wage is probably disastrous. If you live in like LA or San Francisco or any of these other big cities, Austin, or coastal big cities where people are more likely to be Bernie bros, you're probably a $15 an hour minimum wage doesn't really sound that crazy to you. Like there's a lot of other things to consider here. Like you want to like ultra oversimplify this, right? If Bernie bros all live in areas where the minimum wage is like $10, $12, $15 an hour anyway, it's probably not that ridiculous to assume a lot of them would be okay with a $15 an hour, nationwide minimum wage. Hopefully that's a position that Bernie would walk back on once elected and shown that like, hey, this is a really fucked up thing. Bernie did give some very nuanced, very responsible answers that surprised me. I think Bernie was on, I want to say it was an MSNBC talk show, and somebody asked him, they said, Bernie, if you were put in charge right now, would you split up the banks? Would you split up the big banks that you think shouldn't be the way that they are, that are too large to fail and shouldn't exist? And Bernie said no to that. He said that he wouldn't do it because he doesn't believe that the office of presidency is the one that should be in charge of that. He said that the appropriate institutions or whatever should be the ones that are right. When he gave that answer, I was actually really surprised. I thought that he would have just said, yeah, I would tear those institutions down immediately. Compared to the but the reality is a $15 minimum wage would be so massively disruptive. Yeah, it would be bad. So you can pretend like Trumpers are the dumbest people for supporting a southern wall. The southern wall though is indefensible. Like I can't give you a good. And maybe this sounds partisan to you, but these are my reasons for why Bernie bros might support a $15 an hour minimum wage nationally. Right? I think these are decent answers. Right? They already live in places where wages are high. Hopefully Bernie would walk back on the issue. Some people might support him and they don't support the $15 an hour minimum wage, so you would think Bernie would either walk back on that issue or not be as strict with it, maybe not 15 everywhere, I don't know, right? I can give you some reasons for why people might support Bernie despite the $15 an hour minimum wage, or why they might support the $15 an hour minimum wage. So how about you give me some great examples where you're a Republican and you think that building a wall is a good solution to immigration problems. Destiny, do you not see the point? You're giving so much leeway to I'm not giving leeway, dog. I'm giving you a very, very, very sane, very easy explanation that any GED 9th grade fucking student could understand. These are very, very easy things. I'm not using any type of mental gymnastics here. I know that maybe you really want me to, okay? But these are pretty simple answers, okay? While giving absolutely none of the leeway to the people who misguidedly supported a wall at the southern border. Can you tell me in what scenario, what scenarios is supporting a giant wall like a good idea to help for immigration? Who are you that you think this is a good idea? Can you tell me? I noticed that earlier I asked for one clip of Trump speaking with nuance or intelligence about any complicated issue from the 2016 and onward season. You still haven't linked one. I know you're not going to because I don't think those clips exist, but can you tell me in what world does it make sense to support building a wall to help our immigration? Destiny, I don't think a southern wall is a good idea, but I have a basic background in economics, so I can tell a federal 15-hour is far crazier than idea than the wall. So you can't? Can you give me an explanation of groups of people that could think that having a giant wall is a good idea? What if you're playing 2D chess and immigrants can't tunnel or fly over it? I don't support a wall, but a 15 an hour minimum wage is a far worse policy. Okay, so you can't. And it's only worse economically, right? You can't. Those two aren't directly comparable because they address completely different issues. What if you don't want White Walkers coming from Mexico? The guys on Attack on Titan, maybe? How is slowly increasing the federal minimum wage a crazy idea? If the wage starts to hurt people, don't you think Bernie would see it's not working and change its course? Maybe. Minimum wages are in general a bad idea because they usually move against the market. Generally, minimum wage is not a good idea to combat low wages. You usually want to do it in other ways. Also, $15 an hour minimum wage. People guess that the reason why the minimum wage today isn't that disruptive is because it's probably not that far from what the market would settle on anyway. $15 an hour would be a dramatic departure from the minimum wage that are established in certain states right now. Like, isn't the federal... It's not $7.25 anymore, right? What is the federal minimum wage? United States. Oh, it is $7.25. So that's a doubling of the federal minimum wage. There are probably some states that have minimum wages with low cost of living that are near this. Destiny, absolutely. Those that support the wall claim that it will raise the wages of blue-collar workers by restricting the supply of cheap labor. It's sound in theory, but misguided. A $15 an hour minimum wage is horrible in theory and horrible in practice, but you bend over backwards to excuse Bernie for supporting it, and those that support the wall claim that it will raise the wages of blue-collar workers by restricting the supply of cheap labor. So these are people that thought that building a wall is actually going to keep immigrants out of the country. I don't know. It just doesn't seem like a good idea. It just seems really stupid to me. I mean, the minimum wage seems dumb to me as well, but at least the minimum wage isn't like giving a big fuck you to another country, right? The minimum wage is internal, whereas the wall is literally saying, Mexico, fuck you. Also, pay for this fucking wall. And also, it's definitely going to work to keep immigrants out. Did you ever read the leaked transcript of Trump's call with the Pineda, the Mexican president? Oh, yeah. where Trump was saying, stop saying that you're not going to pay for the wall. It makes me look really bad. Yeah, that transcript, that was some funny shit. Explain why Trump's ideas are actually worse than Bernie's in total? Well, I mean, where do you want me to start? I mean, what do you mean? A minimum wage is giving a big fuck you to our country. Interesting how that doesn't rustle your jimmies as much as an ignorant Trump. Because you have severe autism, dude. I'm sorry that this is like really hard for you to understand. A $15 an hour minimum wage doesn't feel like a big fuck you to your country, because even if it ends up being a fuck you to your country, it seems like you're at least looking out for their interests. If a leader gets up on stage and he says, I want to give you a $15 an hour minimum wage, the average person doesn't go, oh wow, $15 an hour minimum wage. Well, if he artificially inflates the price floor of wages so much, that's going to cause so much disruption in the markets that low wage earners are actually going to be disproportionately impacted. We're going to be the ones that... People don't think that way, dude, right? That, like, how was that taken? Oh, 15 an hour minimum wage. Wow, that sounds awesome. Even if it ends up being a big fuck you to your country ultimately, because that is what happens. It's not like people feel it, that like you're trying to destroy them with that, right? Whereas I'm going to put up a wall and make Mexico pay for it. There's no way to make that sound good to your friends south of the border. There is no nice, polite spin on that. Like, oh, dude, well, this will help you guys too. Like, you know, if you got, policemen to the north that need target practice, you guys could shoot at the guys trying to climb the wall.
What are your thoughts on charter schools? They are great if they build enough of them for all the inner...
Hold on. You could say the exact same thing about the wall? What? There's no nice way to spin the wall to Mexico. There is no polite way to spin the wall. There's no way to say, like, hey, guys, listen, how do you... Like, imagine you're sitting at the dinner table, like, you're trying to eat, and somebody's, like, trying to talk to you, and you put, like, a big menu up and just, like, block them off. And they're like, oh... Like, I can't even... what are your thoughts on charter schools? They're great if they build enough of them for all the inner city kids. Also, I stopped supporting BLM after Evergreen incident and blocked highways when people were coming home from work or an emergency. Yeah, I don't know enough about charter schools to have, like, an amazing opinion about them. I'm not sure. Destiny, there absolutely is a nice way. The wall will reduce illegal immigration, which will allow our blue-collar and African-American workers to have less competition for jobs and higher wages. That's the rhetoric that supports it. How do you tell Mexico, when you say Mexico is sending rapists and murderers to our country, and we're going to build a wall and make them pay for it? Excuse me, I want to read your statement to Mexico to make that wall sound good. Please. This is the difference. This is why I said these aren't comparable. It's because the wall is directly impacting your relationship with another country, whereas a minimum wage is an internal thing.